Benny Leonard, born Benjamin Leiner, was an American professional boxer who held the World Lightweight Championship for 8 years, from 1917 to 1925. Widely considered one of the all-time greats, he was ranked 8th on the Ring magazine's list of the 80 best fighters of the last 80 years, and placed 7th in ESPN's 50 greatest boxers of all time. In 2005, the International Boxing Research Organization ranked Leonard as the #1 lightweight, and #8 best pound-for-pound fighter of all time. Statistical website BoxRec rates Leonard as the second best lightweight ever, while the Ring magazine founder Nat Fleischer placed him at #2. Boxing historian Bert Sugar placed him 6th in his top 100 fighters catalog. Benjamin Leiner was born and raised as a youth in the Jewish ghetto, located in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, New York City, near 8th Street and 2nd Avenue, where he learned to fight the sons of other immigrants. His religious Jewish parents Minny and Gershon Leiner, who immigrated from Russia, disapproved of his fighting but understood his frequent need to defend himself in the poor neighborhoods in which he grew up. His father struggled to support a wife and 8 children by working 12-hour days in a garment sweatshop at $20 a week. His annual take-home pay rarely eclipsed $1,400. Leiner began his professional career in 1911 at age 15. He took the Americanized name Benny Leonard to prevent his parents from discovering he had taken up professional boxing to earn extra money for them and himself. Leonard was known for his speed, lightning reflexes, excellent boxing technique, and ability to think fast on his feet. Equally important, he taught himself to be a powerful hitter, who scored 70 knockouts from his 89 wins. He was defeated only 6 times in his career, and was held to a draw on few occasions. As was common in the era in which he fought, he engaged in many no-decision matches, and is believed to have fought in around 96 bouts. He most distinguished himself by decisively winning over 90% of his career matches in his prime between 1921 to 32, and winning all of his matches decided by judges, and based on points. Leonard debuted his boxing career on a Saturday in November 1911, losing in 3 rounds at the Fondant Athletic Club in New York. The fight was stopped because he was bleeding through the nose. He won 12 of his next 18 bouts, which included 3 no decisions, establishing a reputation as a good local fighter before meeting Canadian Frankie Fleming in May 1912. Leonard was knocked out for only the 2nd time in his career. He lost a rematch with Fleming 16 months later. Not surprisingly, Fleming got the first shot at Freddie Welsh, failing to unseat the world lightweight champion in a May 1915 fight, which the newspapers awarded to Welsh. On August 14, 1914, Leonard knocked out talented contender Tommy Hauck in the 7th of 10 rounds at Elmsford, New York. Apparently Leonard had learned Hauck's strategy after a previous loss to him 1 year earlier on September 27, 1913, in a 10-round newspaper decision in Atlantic Garden, New York. Leonard's next big test came when he took on featherweight champion Johnny Kilbin in Atlantic City in April 1915. In a close bout, Kilbin won 6 of 10 rounds to win the decision. Leonard might have beaten the champion if he had a little more confidence, the Chicago Tribune wrote, but even when he was having the best of the going he shut up like a clam, and clinched for all he was worth. Leonard defeated Portuguese boxer João Azevedo on November 19, 1915 in Azevedo's hometown of Saratoga Springs, New York, outpointing him in all rounds but the first, which was even. Azevedo needed to clinch frequently to avoid Leonard's attack. The New York Times clearly gave the decision to Leonard. On December 17, 1915, Leonard knocked out Joe Mandot in the 7th round of a 10-round bout in Harlem. There was brilliant scientific boxing for the first 6 rounds, and a few sources reported that Mandot held a slight lead until the knockout. In the end, Leonard scored a decisive victory against a leading contender for the lightweight title. On his 2nd attempt to rise in the 7th, Leonard administered a stinging right to Mandot that put him down for the count. As was his habit, Benny was effective in combinations with both gloves, wearing down Mandot with fast jolts throughout the strategically fought bout, until he could deliver the crossing right in the 7th that put Mandot down for the first time. After his 2nd fall to the canvas, Mandot attempted to drag himself up using the ropes but was unable, and the 10 count was completed with him in a seated position. His manager later commented that Mandot was sick before the fight. In their first meeting on February 28, 1916, Leonard defeated Rocky Kansas in 10 rounds in Buffalo, New York. In a complete victory, the Buffalo Courier claimed Kansas landed only 1 clean blow to Leonard's face, and that Leonard's trademark dark, center-parted hair remained smooth and unmussed throughout the bout. Leonard was said to have caught punches in the air, blocked Rocky's returns, dealt frequent stunning lefts, and shot his powerful right. He also dodged several of Kansas's punches with rapid and beautifully executed shifts of his torso, demonstrating his superior speed and reflexes. By the close of the 10th, Kansas was groggy. Leonard then reeled off a string of 15 straight victories, interrupted by 2 draws, which earned him the chance to meet Freddie Welsh for the lightweight championship on March 3, 1916. Although newspaper reporters at Madison Square Garden believed that Leonard had won, Welsh retained his title in a bout that was officially recorded as a no decision. The two fighters met again 4 months later in Brooklyn, and this time Welsh won decisively, staggering Leonard, and nearly putting him down with a right to the jaw in the 6th. Leonard met Jimmy Murphy on February 21, 1916, and won decisively in a 6th-round knockout in Philadelphia. Leonard outpointed Murphy throughout the 6-round contest, landing more and better blows. In the 6th, Leonard landed his powerful right to Murphy's jaw, and though he rose after a brief count, Leonard again attacked with a rapid series of rights and lefts to the jaw that put Murphy down for the count, and rendered him unconscious for several minutes. After the bout, Leonard's fans rushed him and carried him on their shoulders to his dressing room. The accomplished Murphy had recently outpointed reigning lightweight champion Freddie Welsh, and had met Ad Wolgast, Johnny Dundee, and Pal Moore. On March 13, 1916, Leonard defeated Sam Robideau in a 6-round newspaper decision in Philadelphia. According to the Washington Post, Leonard had Robideau almost out for the count. In the first 3 rounds, Robideau tried to take the lead, but Leonard waited him out and let him tire against his defense, still getting a few effective counter punches. In the 4th, he tried Robideau more, forcing him to defend against his rapid attack. In the 5th, several lefts to the jaw of Robideau weakened him, but Leonard allowed him to recover. In the 6th, Robideau tried to take the lead, and even hold at times, but Leonard broke from his holds, and after a couple of shots to the jaw, and a powerful right, put Robideau on the canvas for a count of 9. When Robideau arose, he could only manage to clinch Leonard by the waist, and wait for the bell. Robideau had an admirable record against many of the best lightweights of his era, including several opponents of Leonard. Harlem native Frankie Knife, the Fighting Fireman, lost decisively to Leonard in a 6th-round technical knockout on September 14, 1916. Leonard had the edge in the first 5 rounds, using his characteristic ringcraft to outmaneuver and outbox Knife, who still returned a few punches of his own. In the 6th, a shower of rights and lefts by Leonard had Knife out on his feet. The referee stopped the fight when one of Knife's seconds jumped into the ring, and a small riot ensued when around 300 of Knife's fans threw chairs and bottles into the ring. In a 12th-round technical knockout in Kansas City on October 18, 1916, Leonard convincingly defeated Hammer. In the final round, Hammer's manager stopped the fight at the count of 3 after his boxer was knocked to the mat. Of the 11 full rounds fought by the two competitors, Leonard had 8, Hammer only 2, and 1 was even. Hammer was considered the top contender for the lightweight title in the Midwest. With his string of victories, Leonard had earned enough by 1916 to move his formerly struggling family from their Lower East Side ghetto to a better neighborhood in Harlem, a goal he had since beginning his boxing career. On January 22, 1917, Leonard beat Eddie Wallace in a 6-round newspaper decision before a substantial crowd of 6,000 in Philadelphia. The Washington Post gave Leonard all 6 rounds. Leonard worked in machine-like form, crashing stunning punches to the head of Wallace, who had little in the way of an effective defense. Wallace was close to being knocked out by the end of round 6. On February 28, 1917, he fought one-time bantamweight champion Jimmy Reagan at the Manhattan Casino in Manhattan, New York, in a 10-round match that the New York Times labeled a draw. The Des Moines Register considered Reagan having gone 10 rounds without being knocked out by the extraordinary Leonard a remarkable accomplishment. According to the Ogden Standard, dozens of times Jimmy seemed on the point of going down, but always he kept a foot. The Standard also wrote of Leonard that there wasn't a punch that he didn't aim at Reagan, and there wasn't one that was forceful enough to keep the Californian at bay. Winning 17 of 19 bouts after his second loss to Freddie Welsh, the 21-year-old Leonard fought lightweight champion Welsh for the 3rd time in the Manhattan Casino on May 28, 1917. The challenger floored the champion 3 times in the 9th round before referee Billy McPartland stopped the fight with Welsh hanging unconscious on the ropes, making Leonard the world lightweight champion. Reflecting the sentiments of the perfect Jewish son, Leonard confided to the press, "My mother deserves all the credit. She always made me live right. Tonight he, Welsh showed more skill than I ever saw before. He is a game fellow. I didn't know it was the 9th round when I went after him at the finish, but I knew the time was getting short. He is a brainy fighter, but I know then that his brain wasn't in control. I've always been afraid of hitting a man who was helpless like that, so I didn't hit him on the chin again. I hit him on the head, hoping he would go down. Rather than a harsh blow, Leonard used a lighter one, hoping not to excessively injure his opponent. Leonard displayed sportsmanship, humility, consideration for others, and the ability to articulate the qualities that endeared him to the Jewish community of New York, and made him a great draw, and a role model to many of his fans. After the bout, Leonard said he intended to enroll in the Army for World War I, where he served as a valued boxing instructor for the troops. On June 4, 1917, Leonard defeated Joe Welsh in a 6-round newspaper decision in Philadelphia. Using precision combination punching, Leonard jabbed, and hooked with his left, and crossed rights to the jaw of Welsh throughout the bout. He threw lightning jabs in the 5th, though their speed did not give him time to set for power. Though he tried hard in the 6th to make Welsh his 6th straight knockout victim, Benny lacked the steam and precision to send Welsh down for the count. Johnny Nelson lost at Leonard's hometown Harlem Sports Club in New York on June 18, 1917 in a 3rd-round technical knockout. The bout was considered Leonard's first defense of his title by some reporters, as he would have lost it if he had been knocked out by his opponent. Nelson was a strong boxer, but he was ineffective against the speed, timing, and ring craft of Leonard, who was able to land more powerful punches throughout the bout. With great and unusual gifts of athleticism, Benny defeated stronger opponents without retreating by employing a more complex ring strategy executed with superior speed and agility. His ability to rarely retreat, and his long streak of knockouts, pleased his audience, who considered him a true champion. On July 25, 1917, Leonard defeated Johnny Kilbin, reigning world featherweight champion from 1912 to 23, at Sheep Park in Philadelphia in a 3rd-round technical knockout. Impressively, it was only the 2nd knockout loss in 122 bouts for Kilbin. Biding his time in the first 2 rounds, Leonard knew he clearly had the edge in the 3rd, and his blows began to land with authority, speed, and precision. 20 seconds into the round, Leonard landed a crossing right to the chin that put Kilbin against the ropes, then 2 more rights put him on his knees. After his manager threw in the towel, Kilbin was staggering, and unable to return to his corner unaided. It was one of Leonard's most decisive wins against one of his most skilled opponents. He officially defended the title against 6 different boxers over the next 8 years. Leonard defeated Leo Johnson on September 21, 1917 in one of his first defenses of the world lightweight title, and won convincingly in a 1st-round technical knockout. Leonard defeated Frank Kirk on November 28, 1917 in a stunning 1st-round knockout at Stockyards Stadium in Denver. Kirk was first down from a right to the body, and when he arose, Leonard hammered a right hook to the jaw that put Kirk down for the count, only 1:20 into the 1st round. Earlier in the 1st, Leonard shot rights and lefts to Kirk's jaw that caused him to cover and retreat. Leonard's speed and reflexes proved too great for Kirk, who could find no adequate defense for Leonard's attack. On December 12, 1917, Leonard defeated Patsy Cline at the Olympia Athletic Club in Philadelphia in a 6-round newspaper decision. It was one of the hardest bouts of Leonard's early career, and he had to use his best defenses to guard against the attack of Cline. Leonard was forced to use speed when he headed in the early rounds to defend against Cline, though the pace of the match slowed somewhat in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Leonard was ineffective with his left as a result of the precise right-handed blocks of his opponent. In the final round, Leonard attempted to end the match with his powerful left, but was prevented again by the defense of Cline. Cline suffered most in the last 2 rounds when Leonard scored frequent blows against which he could not defend. Cline excelled most at short-range attacks, a more difficult offense to defend, and scored with them occasionally even in the 5th, when Leonard had taken the lead. Cline prevented Leonard from attacking at long range in most instances in the early rounds by retreating or expert blocking, but in the 5th Leonard scored with a few stiff left jolts, and again dominated in the 6th, where he secured his points margin. In a 4-round newspaper decision at New York's Shrine to Boxing, Madison Square Garden, on July 16, 1918, he defeated Jewish boxer Willie Jackson. Jackson was born Oscar Tobin on the Lower East Side of New York, as was Leonard. In the well-publicized Army benefit that raised $20,000 to buy soldiers athletic equipment, Leonard took criticism and boos among the audience for not unleashing his best punching against his highly rated lightweight opponent. In other benefits, Leonard had also been reluctant to risk injury to his hands, or bring excessive injury in a match that served the community. Regardless, as was his habit, his boxing showed careful strategy, speed, and exceptional reflexes, and interested most among the record crowd in the garden. Leonard appeared far superior to Jackson in frequency of punches, defenses, and speed. He moved easily against Jackson, but threw lefts and rights at will. Leonard staged a total of 4 exhibition bouts in 1918 to raise war bonds for America's efforts in World War I. On September 23, 1918, Leonard fought a draw with future British world welterweight champion, BBOC, Dead Kid Lewis, another Jewish champion, before an exceptionally large crowd of 20,000 for the world welterweight title in Newark, New Jersey. Lewis fought cautiously for the first 6 rounds but opened up in the 7th, and the 8th. The prestigious New York Times and New York Tribune considered the fight a draw, though a few newspapers believed Leonard had won. One reporter considered the bout farcical, and lacking traditional boxing technique. The Lincoln Star, as did other papers, gave Leonard the edge 5 rounds to 2, but noted that the bout had no knockdowns or much hard punching. In an early win on January 13, 1919, Leonard defeated Harlem Eddie Kelly in a 6th-round newspaper decision in Philadelphia. Leonard was given 4 of the 6 rounds, with Kelly taking only the first. Harlem Eddie was given severe punishment by Leonard throughout the match. Kelly fought top lightweight talent, but usually not with a winning record. Leonard soundly defeated Portland Jewish lightweight Joe Benjamin on the evening of January 31, 1919 in a 4-round newspaper decision in San Francisco. In the opinion of the San Francisco Chronicle, Leonard could have ended the bout at any time. Showing fear, Benjamin backed away often, with Leonard inserting his left frequently in the first 2 rounds, but by the 3rd, Leonard was fully in control but refrained from putting Benjamin down. By the 4th, there was so little interaction between the boxers, that many in the crowd disapproved. Benjamin would fight many highly rated lightweights, and in his later career would win against them with frequency. Leonard defeated Harvey Thorpe in Joplin, Missouri, on the evening of March 26, 1919, in a 10-round newspaper decision of the Kansas City Star and Kansas City Times. One reporter gave all 10 rounds to Leonard, and considered his victory an easy win. Leonard had soundly defeated Thorpe earlier in November 1916 in a 12-round knockout in St. Louis. Although Thorpe fought several top-rated lightweights, including Charlie White, Richie Mitchell, and Lou Tendler, his record was poor against them, and he never competed for a world championship, though he took the Southwest lightweight title in July 1917. Leonard defeated fellow Russian-born, New York Jewish lightweight Johnny Clinton, born Morris Elstein, on September 8, 1919, at the arena in Syracuse in a 10-round newspaper decision. Benny led throughout the fight, using his left jab and right uppercut effectively, and often, demonstrating his ability to adjust his punching combinations to the style of any given opponent as an opening occurred. Clinton was in the greatest distress in the 6th, when he appeared to be hanging on the ropes on the verge of a knockout instance before the bell, and was nearly floored again in the 10th, when Leonard attempted to finish the bout. The Pittsburgh Post wrote that Leonard deserved every one of the 10 rounds. In their final meeting on October 15, 1919, Leonard defeated fellow Jewish boxer Phil Bloom decisively in Detroit in a 10-round newspaper decision of the Detroit News. Leonard came close to a knockout in 3 of the rounds. As a fellow Jewish New Yorker who could draw the Jewish crowd, Bloom fought Leonard in 7 previous meetings extending back to January 1914, but with little success. Leonard had previously defeated Bloom 5 times with 1 draw, and only 1 loss according to newspaper decisions. Bloom competed against top talent, but would never obtain a title shot in his prolific 12-year career in the ring. After his boxing career ended, he appeared in a number of boxing movies usually shot near Los Angeles. On November 17, 1919, Leonard defeated Lockport Jimmy Duffy in a 2nd-round technical knockout of a 15-round match at the Convention Hall in Tulsa. The bout was billed as a world lightweight title match. In a peculiar spectacle, and decisive one-sided victory, Duffy was knocked down 3 times in each round, with the referee stopping the bout on his last fall to the canvas. Spectators suspected Duffy was intentionally not putting up a fight. Leonard defeated Mel Coogan on December 10, 1919, in a 2nd-round technical knockout at the 4th Regiment Armory in Jersey City. In a convincing victory, Coogan was knocked to the mat 3 times in the 2nd round. The first 2 knockdowns were for counts of 8, with the 3rd resulting in the fight being called. Coogan fought many of the top lightweights of the day, including Lou Tendler, and many of Leonard's opponents, and had an admirable record against them. Leonard defeated Red Herring on December 19, 1919 in an early 6th-round technical knockout in Memphis, Tennessee. Leonard outmaneuvered Herring with speed and footwork, slipping the half-dozen punches thrown by his opponent, with most going well wide of their mark. By the 5th, Herring was helpless against the ropes with the crowd roaring for Leonard to finish the match. Leonard fought with a deadly left, and sent terrific blows to the head and body. 1 minute into the 6th, Leonard backed Herring into a neutral corner, and put him on the canvas with 3 short rights to the jaw, that led the referee to end the bout at 1:10, after Herring attempted to rise after his first count. The Arkansas Democrat gave Leonard 5 rounds, with the 4th even. Herring remained on his feet through the first 5 rounds, but took considerable punishment from the lightweight champion. In their last match, on February 9, 1920, Leonard defeated one of his most frequent opponents, future world junior, lightweight, and featherweight champion Johnny Dundee, in an 8-round newspaper decision many reporters considered a title match at the Armory in Jersey City. One reporter felt Leonard had simply outpunched his opponent in every round, though Dundee put up a stiff defense. In 6 previous matches, Leonard had 2 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws, at least according to the decisions of the more trustworthy newspapers. In their February bout, Leonard delivered several effective uppercuts to Dundee during the infighting, but Dundee made a valiant attack in the first 3 rounds. Afterwards, Leonard went on the defensive, and built a margin in blows delivered, winning on points. On July 5, 1920, Leonard defeated Jewish boxer, and exceptional Chicago lightweight, Charlie White, in a 9th-round knockout before an audience of 12,000 at Benton Harbor, Michigan. The fight was a careful battle of boxing strategy, but White always held the potential for stronger punching with his left hook. Leonard may have won largely due to his faster reaction time and reflexes against an opponent who was nearly his equal at times. He showed better speed and agility, and used footwork to gain advantages in the angle of his attack. The hard-punching White knocked Leonard out of the ring in the 5th round with his left hook, but by the 9th, White was down 5 times, finally landing on the canvas for the count from a right cross from Leonard. Benny had been looking for an opening since the 8th, and found it after he opened White up with his left jab, and dealt the final right cross in the 9th. Though he had continued to train, Leonard may have performed better if he had not just taken 5 months off from prize fighting while living in Hollywood. It was one of White's better showings, as he dominated the infighting, and appeared to have thrown more punches, but he fought against an opponent who simply refused to be beaten. Leonard defeated Joe Welling on November 27, 1920, before an estimated crowd of 12,000, at Madison Square Garden in a world lightweight title match. The bout resulted in a 14th-round technical knockout for Leonard. Both boxers weighed in within a pound of 135. Welling shone only in the 5th round, and by the 10th seemed able to continue, but had no chance of success against Leonard. In the 13th, Leonard sent Welling down 3 times. In the 14th, Leonard sent Welling to the canvas for a count of 9, and the referee, stepping between the 2 boxers, ruled a technical knockout, ending the fight, 1:07 into the round. The lack of compassion in the boxing crowd was noted by one reporter, who wrote that the audience was disappointed by referee Halkup's decision to end the bout in the 13th. He believed they would have enjoyed seeing 2 more rounds of punishment given to Welling by the reigning lightweight champion. By today's rules, the bout would have stopped in the 13th, before Welling had been sent to the canvas for the 3rd time. On a lighter note, Charlie Chaplin performed before the opening bell, and Leonard received a World Lightweight Championship belt from Tex Rickard, manager of the Garden, and legendary heavyweight Jack Dempsey, at the end of the match. On September 25, 1920, Leonard defeated Pal Moran in a 10-round newspaper decision in East Chicago before a substantial crowd of 10,000. Only occasionally did Moran break through the champion's defenses, and Leonard always had a remedy. Benny could not get started in the early rounds, but in the last 4 he took the lead. Leonard scored frequently with swift left jabs, and powerful right crosses. In the 7th through the 10th, Leonard seemed continuously on the verge of scoring a knockout, but Moran fought gamely on. On October 4, 1920, Leonard soundly defeated Frankie Britt in Hartford, Connecticut in a 5-round technical knockout. At the end of the contest, the referee stopped the bout to save Britt from a knockout, as Leonard had been striking him repeatedly. Before a capacity crowd, Leonard scored an easy victory over K.O. Willie Laughlin on the evening of November 12, 1920 at the Camden Sporting Club in Camden, New Jersey in a 10-round newspaper decision. Leonard began cautiously wary of the skills and 2-inch longer reach of Laughlin, whom he had met previously. In the last 3 rounds, Leonard used his punching power, though it was met with frequent, but less effective blows from Laughlin. In the 4th, Leonard's jabs to Laughlin's face were frequent, but Laughlin continued his defense, and never retreated. In the 5th, Leonard scored more punches, and began to take a points margin, but not without receiving a few blows from his opponent. In the 9th, Leonard tried to end the fight with uppercuts, but could not deliver a knockdown blow to Laughlin, who remained on his feet even through the exchange of blows in the 10th. Leonard knocked Laughlin across the ring, and staggered him at times, but Laughlin's ability to take punishment repeatedly saved him from a knockout. Leonard defeated Richie Mitchell in 6 of 15 rounds on January 14, 1921, in a tough World Lightweight Championship bout in Madison Square Garden. Atypically, Leonard was down in the first round for a count of 9, when his alarmed seconds applied salts. In an incredible first round, Mitchell was down as well for a count of 9 from a right to the stomach by Leonard, and down twice more before the bell. With a hook to the stomach, and a right to the jaw, Mitchell went down for a count of 9 in the 6th. Mitchell was up, before Leonard with a flurry of punches put him down again. On his 3rd trip to the mat, the referee called the bout. By today's rules, the fight would have ended shortly after the 2nd knockdown. A significant portion of the gate proceeds of $75,000 were given to aid war-torn France. On June 6, 1921, Leonard defeated future lightweight champion Rocky Kansas in a 12-round world lightweight title match, before a roaring crowd of 28,000 at a baseball park in Harrison, New Jersey, winning by newspaper decision. The title would have gone to Kansas if he had scored a knockout before the end of the match. The Sheboygan Press gave Leonard the win, and 9 rounds with only 2 to Kansas. Perhaps feeling fatigued, Leonard was said to have fought conservatively, and uncharacteristically punched on the defensive throughout the match. Only in the 8th, 9th, and 12th, did Leonard go on the aggressive. Showing his versatility, Leonard was judged to have won by a clear margin, scoring points through the attacks of Kansas in as many as 9 of the rounds, despite never taking the offensive. Kansas's blows appeared wild against the precise technique of his champion opponent. On November 22, 1921, Leonard defeated Sailor Friedman in Philadelphia in a 10-round newspaper decision of the top 3 newspapers in the area. In the early rounds, Leonard piled up a sizable margin on points due to the understandable reluctance of Friedman to attack the lightweight champion. The fight was action-packed throughout, but Leonard took the lead in most rounds, and gained a sizable advantage by the end of the bout. As both fighters were above the lightweight limit, the contest could not be deemed a title match. Leonard defeated Tim Droney on December 20, 1921 at the Ice Palace in Philadelphia in an 8-round decision of 3 leading Philadelphia newspapers. In a complete victory, the Philadelphia Inquirer gave Leonard every round but the 4th, when Leonard retreated to rest, and allowed Droney to take the offense. Nonetheless, Droney landed only 1 solid right to the jaw of Leonard in the round. Oddly, Leonard leapt in the air in a few instances to avoid the blows of Droney, and though the move was effective, it was done primarily to amuse the crowd. Leonard was said to display wonderful ring work, and amazing speed. Droney fought gamely, and remained on his feet throughout the bout, though most reporters believed Leonard could have knocked him out in the final rounds, as he was defenseless by the 7th and 8th. Droney fought some outstanding lightweights, but his record against the better contenders was poor in his later career. Both boxers fought in the lightweight range near 140. Leonard defeated Rocky Kansas again on February 10, 1922 in a 15-round unanimous decision at Madison Square Garden. Leonard had a more difficult time with the fight than in their previous meeting, as Kansas was the aggressor throughout the match, and Leonard had trouble when fighting at close quarters. The tie turned in the 9th round, when Kansas, fighting against the ropes, let his guard down, and Leonard, with characteristic lightning speed, shot a smashing left that sent his opponent down for the count of 9. Somehow, Kansas recovered, and after a rising managed to defend Leonard's considerable efforts to end the match. Feeling more confident against a weakened opponent, Leonard bored in for the rest of the bout, taking the lead. Winning the 11th through the 15th, Leonard built up a significant enough points margin to win the match. By the 15th, Leonard was trying for a knockout, but to his credit, after the 9th, Kansas remained on his feet though badly battered in the remaining rounds. On May 19, 1922, Leonard defeated Hungarian-born Jewish boxer Soldier Bartfield, originally Jacob Bartfedelt, in a 4-round points decision at Madison Square Garden. Barfield had an incredible career, fighting 55 world title claimants in his 220 recorded fights. As was Leonard's strength, he defeated Barfield with a variety of moves, including blows to the head and body using both lefts and rights, and built a solid points margin. Leonard seriously affected Barfield with an uppercut to the chin in the 4th round, one of his most telling and lightning fast blows. The match was a charity event for the Sports Alliance, and Jack Dempsey was introduced. In 3 previous meetings in 1919, Leonard had gained significant margins against Barfield in matches in the Northeast. Moving up a weight class from the World Lightweight Championship which he already held, Leonard challenged welterweight champion Jack Britton for his title on June 26, 1922. He lost the fight when he was disqualified for hitting Britton when he was down in the 13th round. A few in the audience, including news reporter Ernest Hemingway, likely suspected the possibility of a fix, as there were rumors that a Jewish underworld figure, Arnold Rothstein, had influence over Leonard, and that Leonard had been pressured to lose the fight. In a somewhat anti-Semitic twist, Hemingway later penned a short story, 50 Grand, in 1927, about a corrupt boxing manager who fixes a fight to profit from the outcome with the aid of gangsters and gamblers. The original version of the story mentioned Leonard by name, before being edited out by F. Scott Fitzgerald before publication. On July 27, 1922, Leonard defeated fellow Jewish boxer Lou Tendler in a 12-round newspaper decision in Jersey City in a lightweight world title match that may have been the most remarkable bout of his career. Before a record audience of 70,000 enthralled fans, Leonard won 5 rounds, Tendler 4, with 3 even. Tendler may have led in the first 5 rounds, as Leonard could not adjust to or penetrate his unique southpaw stance, style, and defense. In the 8th, Tendler crashed a terrific left to his opponent, but Leonard distracted him by mumbling a few words, and then going to a clinch to slow Tendler down. Tendler never delivered the follow-up knockout blow, and Leonard, getting time to recover, dominated the next 7 rounds. In their last meeting on July 24, 1923, Leonard won a unanimous 15-round decision at Yankee Stadium before an extraordinary crowd of 58,000. The bout took place in the Bronx in another lightweight world title match. Leonard excelled in the speed and precision of his attack, while still managing to ward off most of his opponent's blows, particularly Tendler's strong left. Leonard demonstrated his mastery of ring tactics against an opponent who became sluggish, and was unable to mount the offensive he had shown in their bout the previous July. By one account, Leonard managed to land 3 blows for every one of Tendler's, demonstrating his speed and mastery of tactics. With the huge crowd, Leonard's take-home pay exceeded $130,000, an extraordinary sum for the era. Leonard defeated Pinky Mitchell on May 29, 1923, in a 10-round technical knockout in Chicago. Mitchell was the reigning world light welterweight champion from 1922 to 26, and Leonard's win signaled another victory against a world champion, though the fight was not a title fight. As Leonard refused to weigh in, neither world lightweight or world junior welterweight titles were at stake. After a slow first 5 rounds with few blows, Leonard took the lead in the remaining rounds with the exception of the 8th and 9th. In the 8th, Mitchell scored with 4 rights to the chin of Leonard. Though both boxers scored points, Leonard seemed to have the edge from the 5th. In the 10th, Leonard dropped Pinky to the mat, and upon arising, he knocked him to the mat a second time. The referee called an end to the match, resulting in a technical knockout. Immediately afterwards, Pinky's brother Richie believed a foul had been committed, claiming Leonard had hit Pinky when he was down on one knee on the mat, but the referee disagreed. The Buffalo Courier wrote that Leonard was in the motions of hitting Pinky when he was on one knee, but that the referee waved him away before the blow occurred. Regardless, a fight between Richie and Davey Mitchell, the referee, ensued that ended in a near riot among the spectators. The police put down the protests with their billy clubs, though no arrests were made. Despite the protests, the charity event ended with a win by Leonard, and no foul called by the referee against Mitchell in the 10th. Leonard soundly defeated Andy Hart on July 9, 1923 before a record crowd near 30,000, in a resounding newspaper win at Sheed Park in Philadelphia. In the 3rd, Leonard delivered many straight jabs which were unreturned, and his hard rights to Hart's ribs in the 4th, forced his opponent to hold. In the 6th, Leonard stung Hart with blows to the jaw and chest, which appeared to sap Hart's strength, but he persevered. Though Leonard showed speed and aggression throughout the bout, several reporters felt he took it easy on Hart, lacking the characteristic snap to his punches, until the 7th and 8th when he gained a more comfortable points margin, and came closest to putting hard on the canvas. His 9 months off making theater performances may have reduced his strength or speed, but it certainly failed to decrease his boxing technique enough to lose the match. Leonard defeated Johnny Mendelsohn on September 7, 1923, in an 8-round newspaper decision in Philadelphia. In the 7th and 8th, Leonard showed complete dominance of his opponent. Nonetheless, at points in the bout, Mendelsohn delivered a few left hooks and right swings that landed well on Leonard, and showed he was not facing a novice. The Associated Press gave Leonard an impressive 7 of the 8 rounds, as Mendelsohn connected with strong blows infrequently, and failed to hurt his opponent in the vast majority of the bout. The match demonstrated Leonard's versatility and his ability to dominate an opponent without taking the offensive, and proved again the effectiveness of his defense. Though Mendelsohn faced some top lightweight talent throughout his career, his record by 1923 was well on the wane, and he was not one of Leonard's best opponents. Leonard announced his retirement from boxing on January 15, 1925, as the reigning world lightweight champion, partly because his mother wanted him to leave boxing due to her failing health. He lost most of his considerable fortune from real estate investments, boxing, and his work as an actor, in the stock market crash of 1929. As a result, between 1931–2, he made an ill-advised comeback, defeating a total of 19 hand-picked opponents who were unlikely to end his comeback hopes. In a second-round technical knockout in Queens, New York on October 6, 1931, he won against Pal Silvers, an opponent who would have been vastly inferior to Leonard in his prime. The dive taken by Silvers in the second made many in the audience question the authenticity of the bout, while many horrified fans witnessed Leonard, the formerly flawless tactician, taking continuous blows to his face before the end of the bout. Although described as pudgy and slow, the balding Leonard won 23 total fights in his comeback, albeit against nondescript opposition. Leonard hoped eventually he would have a big payday with a top-rated opponent. Boxing as a welterweight on May 16, 1932, Leonard won a knockout only 45 seconds into the second round from Jewish boxer Marty Goldman, another product of New York's Lower East Side. The bout was fought at Laurel Gardens in Newark, New Jersey. Leonard's final blow was a short but powerful right to the jaw, which was preceded by a brief flurry of jabs. To many fans, Leonard's footwork and use of rapid combination punching brought back images of the Leonard of old, but in reality Goldman, though a solid club fighter, was far from a world-ranked welterweight contender. Leonard, boxing as a welterweight, defeated Andy Saviola on June 8, 1932 in an easy 10-round points decision at Brooklyn's Coney Island. Leonard sustained cuts to both his eyes, but fought with great technique throughout the bout, and had Saviola on the verge of a knockout by the final round. In the 6th, Saviola had no defense nor counter punches for Leonard's punishing lefts and rights to the body. Both boxers remained on their feet throughout the bout. On June 16, 1932, Leonard defeated Billy Angelo, before a crowd of around 10,000 at the Baker Bowl in Philadelphia. His best round was the 10th, in which he landed repeated rights, and totally dominated his opponent. Leonard was down in his weight, and had likely trained hard for the bout. On the comeback trail as a 153-pound welterweight, on July 22, 1932, Leonard defeated Eddie Shapiro at Coney Island in an 8-round points decision, of which the United Press wrote Benny Leonard completely outboxed Shapiro, pounding him at will. In reality, the first 4 rounds were slow, and Shapiro was warned 3 times in the first 2 rounds by the referee to speed up the pace and land more blows. Before a modest crowd of around 6,000, in a strong rain, Leonard won decisively in the later rounds, disposing of Shapiro handily. In the 4th, Leonard nearly flattened Shapiro, asserting his dominance. Shapiro, however, was far from a lightweight contender, and his record after the Leonard fight was quite poor. Leonard defeated Billy Townsend on July 28, 1932 at Queensboro Stadium in Long Island in a 10-round points decision before a sizable crowd of 6,000. Leonard attacked Townsend with left-hand jabs and strong right-hand smashes that staggered Townsend in several rounds, and pushed the judges to a unanimous decision. Townsend, however, staggered Leonard in the 4th. Benny's knees dropped, but he clutched Townsend around the waist, whispered into his ear, and clutched long enough to recover. Leonard completed the bout well ahead on points, despite a closer 10th round. One reporter gave Leonard all but the 4th and 10th rounds, but Leonard took more punishment than he would have in his earlier days from his competent, but not championship-quality opponent. On August 11, 1932, Leonard defeated Paulie Walker in a well-publicized 10-round bout at Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. Walker was nearly knocked out 2 minutes into the 10th round. Leonard found his payday on October 7, 1932, but it ended his career when he was knocked out after 6 rounds by future champion, Irish-Canadian boxer Jimmy McLarnin. Madison Garden was packed near capacity with 19,000 excited fans to see the fight. Only 2 minutes into the first round, Leonard connected with a right to McLarnin's chin, and his knees brushed the canvas for an instant. The huge crowd was in a frenzy. Clinching and retreating, the younger and fitter McLarnin managed to recover from the blow, and by the end of the round had taken charge. McLarnin dropped Leonard in the second, and only his great defensive skills allowed him to stay in the contest through the next 4 rounds while he received continual punishment. In the 6th, Leonard was dazed by a series of punches from the exceptionally skilled McLarnin, and the referee mercifully halted the fight to save Leonard from further punishment. It was a humiliating defeat for many of Leonard's supporters, particularly his Jewish fans, but a loss to one of the greatest boxers of the century, a future triple weight class champion. After the loss, the New York World Telegram wrote, "The real Leonard already is immortal, the artist of the ring canvas who glided up and back, the genius of punch slipping, the counter-puncher of lightning reflex snap, the lion-hearted campaigner, and the devoted believer of all that's good in boxing." The $15,000 Leonard received from the bout helped to ease his financial burden, and he married his secretary, Jacqueline Stern, the following year. He was later married to Emma Jean Carlson. Leonard worked as a frontman for National Hockey League owner Bill Dwyer of the New York Americans, who had secretly purchased the Pittsburgh Pirates of that league. Leonard was supposed to appear as if he owned the team. The team suffered both at the gate and on the ice, moved to Philadelphia for 1930-31, and then folded. Prior to the stock market crash of 1929, he invested in a car accessory business in Harlem, bought a block of flats in Jersey City, and had a share in a dressmaking business. Also, sometime during his career, Leonard advertised Harley-Davidson motorcycles on press ads. Leonard worked as an after-dinner speaker and lecturer after leaving boxing in 1925. With his good looks, and the crowd his fame could bring, he performed in vaudeville, making several appearances as a dancer and performer shortly after his first boxing retirement. He appeared in the vaudeville musical Battling Butler in 1927. During his boxing career, Leonard starred in the film serial The Evil Eye, 1920, and a series of boxing-related film shorts titled Flying Fists, 1924-1925. He also appeared in The Comeback, 1925, and Hitting Hard, 1925. Leonard lost the vast majority of his fortune in the stock market crash of 1929. After his failed boxing comeback attempt, from 1933 to 4 he worked as a boxing instructor for the physical education department at City College of New York, a school with a large Jewish enrollment. When the United States entered World War II, he enlisted in the maritime service, and took charge of the physical training of 100,000 men, eventually rising to the rank of lieutenant commander by the time he had completed his 3 years of service. In 1943, Leonard worked as a boxing referee, and continued in that endeavor after the war, with the majority of his bouts in New York and Philadelphia. After refereeing the first 6 bouts of the April 18, 1947, card at the Street Nicholas Arena in New York, Leonard was stricken with a massive heart attack during the first round of the next bout, between Mario Ramon and Bobby Williams. He toppled to the canvas and died in the ring. The ringside physician, Drive Vicente Nardiello, attempted to revive him unsuccessfully. He was only 51 years old. Leonard was interred at Mount Carmel Cemetery in Glendale, New York. A majority of Jewish boxing historians still consider him the greatest Jewish boxer of the 20th century for his astounding record of wins during his long reign as lightweight champion. 1896 to 1947. Leonard was inducted into the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, 1979, the World Boxing Hall of Fame, 1980, the International Boxing Hall of Fame, 1990, the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, 1996, and the Ring Magazine Hall of Fame. He has a professional record of 219 fights, with 185 wins, 22 losses, 9 draws, and 3 no contests.